Melodic hard rockers Tyketto have a brand new album out, Closer to the Sun. And as I'm sure you've probably spotted, today I'm very fortunate indeed to be joined by Tyketto frontman Danny Vaughn. So, Danny, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, you mostly.
Oh, my favorite subject.
Well, mine too. So, it's been 10 years since the previous Tyketto album, Reach, of course. So, I guess the obvious first question is who do you think you are, Boston or something?
Well, we have some excuses. It was never meant to be this long, but I mean, we were gearing up to make a record, to start writing another record when COVID hit. So we were actually supposed to be in the studio in 2020. So
Right.
that kind of derailed everything for a couple of years because nobody wanted to try and make a record remotely. And then I had the retirement of two key band members right after COVID. So I had to decide if Tyketto was going to continue at all and see if the fans would accept it in a new form, et cetera, et cetera. And I wasn't prepared to make a record straight out of the box with a bunch of new, with new players. I wanted everyone to get used to each other and,
Sure.
hopefully bond a bit and become friends and learn each other's musical moves. And that's what we did. We waited until everything kind of fell into place. And it's like, all right, we know how to play together now. Let's see if we can write together.
Nice. And just looking at the photos and the booklet there, it does look like you, assuming these weren't staged, it looks like you did have a great time together making this album.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't be luckier than I feel right now because it could have gone a lot of different ways, and I feel that Tyketto in some ways has a slightly unique relationship with its audience. And if you don't get that, then it's hard to have you as part of the family. And both Johnny and Harry got that immediately, that we
Right.
relate very personally to the people that support us.
And of
And
course, you had a long history with Johnny, uh,
yeah,
going right
well,
back to the
yeah,
wasted
40,
years.
40 years now, since we
Wow.
first met. Yeah.
And speaking of wasted, another cheeky question from me is, well, not really a question, but when I first saw the album cover, I thought, okay, so Danny's paying homage to Save Your Prayers there by being the only person from the band on the front cover. Uh,
Never occurred to me.
but of course, everybody gets their turn in the booklet to create that pose. Who do you think did it best, other than yourself, obviously?
um, yeah, I think they all did a good job. I think Mr. Childs cuts a very, very lean, mean figure on that.
Nice one. And so you mentioned that you weren't sure if people would take to a new lineup of Taiketo, but once you got out on the road, how quickly did those fears kind of evaporate once you got in front of an audience again?
Pretty fast. I've been happily advised by Michael Arbini all the way through. It's almost impossible for me to even talk about Tyketto now without bringing him up because he's my best friend still, and I was sending him some new material even though he was no longer part of the band, saying, do you think this is a good one we should do and all that. He and Johnny had a really good communication between each other as far as Johnny working out his parts and things like that. So, I just very early on, he said to me, he said, I honestly feel that if it's you singing those songs, that the audience will accept that, that they'll
Yeah,
support it. And that seems to be the way it's gone.
great. And yeah, I mean, I've only caught you once in recent years, which was the triple bill with Deer and FM.
Yeah.
So of course we only got a slight, like 45-minute slot, which is never enough for Taiketo, but that was a great package. And then you've done as well as that. You've had the tour with Uriah Heep, so you've got out in front of a lot of possibly new people. So
Yeah.
we'll get to the tour in a little bit, but do you think hopefully you're going to get some people coming to their first Taiketo headline show in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I think so. You mentioned the Uriah Heep thing. That was such a great tour for us to do because, it was Uriah Heep and April Wine and us. And, first of all, it was a joy to be the youngest band on the bill. But also we were very, very lucky because normally, people start filtering in once the opening act is kind of winding it down, but people were there early, I guess it's a
Nice.
crowd that wants to get its money's worth, and bless them for
Sure.
that. And so there were loads of people that didn't know us that got into the vibe, but they were kind of led on by the people who did know us and who were like really loudly supporting from various parts of the arena. And that made a huge difference. And I've spoken to quite a few people that said, no idea who you were. I'm online now buying stuff. So
Right.
that's that's as much as you can hope to accomplish with an opening slot.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you pay it forward with the groups that you've got on support with you this tour. Um, but we've got an interesting period is that you played for a few years and then now you think it is time to crack on and make this new album. So when that thought process came to pass, how easy was it to just get back into Tyketto writing mode, or was it a bit of a slow transition back into that for you?
Yeah, for me it was difficult. I'm notoriously slow writer anyway. It was really kind of a push from particularly Chris Childs, but also Harry. They were presenting stuff. So I was
Hmm.
accumulating a file of stuff and I'd listen and I'd go, that's good. And I put it in a file and nothing would happen. And eventually you start to feel guilty. Like, these guys are trying really hard to make something happen and you're watching fucking cartoons. So it was time to really kick it into gear. And it was once it got going, it was pretty quick. I mean, as far as the album's filled with a variety of collaborations with different people, which I love. I don't need to be the font of all things musical in Tyketto. I'd rather work with other people. So there's quite a lot. We've recorded our first cover ever, and there's a lot of
Wow.
collaborations. And
I mean, yeah,
what's
that Harleys and Indians. The first time I heard that, it was before I had the physical copy of the album, and I thought, oh, that one sounds a bit more like it might have lived on your last solo album. And then when I find out it's a cover of a Roxette B-side, I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
completely
no,
unexpected.
it's a song that I've loved forever. I'm a fan of Roxette, and I thought it was a little unusual song for them to do, but I just thought, yeah, you just turn the guitars up a little more, and just have
Yeah,
some fun with it. But it's that Bo Diddley beat and I thought would be great to play it live, and that was really as far as it was supposed to go. But once we recorded it, we thought, well, let's put it on as an extra for Japan. And then when we listened back to everything, it just fit in with what we were doing, with the whole vibe of Closer to the Sun album. So, why not have it, loud and proud right in the middle of the album?
and you did have to leave it off the vinyl edition, I understand, just
Only
for
because of
timing.
time restrictions. Yeah, it's really sad,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I normally wouldn't do that, where, oh, now you got to buy both. That was not the ploy. It was just,
No, I'm sure.
it came back from the factory and said, it might fit on side two, but it might push the last song off. I was like, well, we can't have that. So,
Priorities, yeah.
yeah.
But now that you're coming into, I mean, the vinyl revival as such has been around for a while now, but does that affect how you put an album together? Do you actually think in terms of side one and side two, or is it more like a CD where it's a flow from start to finish in your brain?
Yeah, I think start to finish. Yeah, I haven't. I guess I really haven't registered creation for vinyl, and I haven't really thought about that since the Wasted album. Was really the last time that it was vinyl first.
Right.
CDs came later. So yeah, I tend to look at an album as an ebb and flow sort of thing. At least that's what I'm shooting for. Um, the albums that kind of lose me the most are ones that kind of stay at one particular level all the way through. I'd
Yeah.
rather go on a bit of a travel journey and see where you take me.
No, we've absolutely achieved that on here, and you must be pretty happy with the reception that it's had. It's only been out a couple
Yeah.
of weeks, but
Oh, overwhelming. Yeah. No, yeah, and it's what I was hoping for. I mean, one of the things that we set out to do when we first started the record and sort of sat down and said, all right, what kind of album do we want to make here? The specter of Don't Come Easy is always looming. And I mean, I can't tell you how many reviews have started with, well, nothing's ever going to touch how good their first album was. And it's like,
yeah,
wow, we start off at a deficit. Yay. You can't win with some people. So
yeah,
it was never an attempt to recreate Don't Come Easy, although, that idea has been pushed once or twice by record companies. It's not feasible. It was made at a different time, different world experiences, all that sort of thing. But what we did do is we listened to it and said, what is it about this record that it's stuck around?
mm,
That people still like. We could play all of Don't Come Easy all the way through live, and no one would complain about that. So
yeah.
what is it
I
about
mean,
that album?
I'd slip out for Strip Me Down, but apart from that, sure.
What is it about that album? So we attempted to distill some of that and bring it forward, if you will. That was
Yeah.
that was the goal. And so far I think we've managed it.
Yeah, well, there's always naysayers who will say if it's not don't come easy, then it's not worth listening to, which just seems crazy to me. But thankfully, they're few and far between. And it certainly seems that the fans are embracing the new album, and certainly in chart terms, you've topped the rock and metal charts, and you've also the chart that I follow the closest is the album sales chart because that to me seems to have more validity because it means people have actually decided to part money in order to get this
Yeah.
rather than just streaming it. And you're in what, number 8, I believe, on that chart. So that's
All right.
highly
Well,
impressive.
that's our third week. So yeah, we were number one on the first week. Yeah. So we've slipped one space from 7 to 8. So yeah, we're hanging in. And like
Nice.
you say, it's not nobody can gauge anymore how much physical product is being bought at any given time. It's the Wild West out there.
Yeah, well, I see a lot that people are pre-ordering albums, physical copies, and then whether there's manufacturing problems or distribution problems, and not getting albums for months. Sometimes it doesn't
Hmm.
seem to have happened with you, thankfully, but it does
No,
seem to
no.
be
Silver
an
Lining,
increasing problem.
Silver Lining's done a great job, and they had enough run up time to make sure that all the ducks were in a row. So I've been very impressed with them.
Excellent. That's not often that you can have that kind of relationship with a label. So,
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. No, I don't want to go too deep into that, but I'm a lot happier where I am right now.
excellent. So you mentioned there's quite a few collaborations in terms of songwriting on the
Mhm.
album. So as a massive Survivor fan, I have to start off by asking about Starts With a Feeling and
Yeah.
uh, working with Jim Peterik there. I gather it's the first time you've written a song with him. I
No,
know you've known each other for a while, but
we wrote a song together for one of his world stage albums.
uh,
It's called "The Hand I Was Dealt." And I have to be honest. I mean, the way writing with Jim Peterik is more like taking a lot of information and then culling it down and making it suit your needs because he's such a strong writer. And of course he has you can usually pick him out once you're aware of him. Like the and so I mean, starts with a feeling. It's a huge percentage of him. And then I came in and said, okay, I'm going to change a bit of this and make this a little more suitable to me. And then I think I added the vocals at the end and all that. But he, what he said to me was, he said, why don't you send me 2 or 3 Don't Come Easy songs that you think best represent the band? I'll listen to that and let me see what it inspires. And it was a day later he came back with Starts With a Feeling. It's like, how does this guy do
wow.
this?
So I had to ask them what 3 songs did you select from
I
Don't
think
Come
it
Easy?
was Wings, Burning Down Inside. I don't remember what the third one was. It wasn't Forever Young though. Because I just felt he knew that one, and that would be kind of
Right.
obvious to send. But yeah, I can't remember what the third one was.
Okay. Oh, well, when you work with someone like Jim, and obviously you're well established as a songwriter yourself, but he's just a legend. So, did you, from your 2 collaborations with him, learn anything that you've since put into your own songwriting, or perhaps had him validate the way that you've been operating already?
I think it's more of a validation. Jim and I don't write in the same way. Um, and I guess to me, that's why collaboration is so great, because you get something that comes at music from an angle that is different from your approach.
Right.
Um, he has much more of a sense of structure in that he'll decide earlier this okay the other part has to come here and when the changes occur. I'll be influenced sometimes by, for instance, some older stuff by U2 where the song never changes. There are no major chordal movements in certain ones of their songs.
Mm.
Like In the Name of Love, it doesn't really shift very much, but it's just so strong. Why change it? So, the two of us kind of mix and match. And that's what I like. I didn't want him to write a song that sounded a lot like I would write. I wanted to write something that sounded like him.
Right. Oh, that's yeah, it's one of my favorites on the album. But I mean, I could list a lot of them. But another 2 that are definitely high up for me are the 2 that I believe you rescued from files from like 10 or 15 years ago. The 2 that you co-wrote with
Ah,
Ruben
you've done your
DeMello.
homework.
So Closer to the Sun and the Picture, which is I mean, I love a good ballad, but I also love an album that only has one on it.
Yeah.
I don't need six of them. So, so how did you decide that it's time for these songs to get finished and become part of this new album?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the back history of that is Ruben DeMello from Boston was in a band called Mars Hill, and he approached me, yeah, 15 some years ago, early days of internet communication and all of that, and saying, I've written this music and I have no vocals, no melodies, and I keep hearing your voice singing over it. Have a listen.
Mm.
So from that, there were four songs. The first one was on Digging Deep, which is called Monday. The second one ended up on my solo album, Myths, Legends, and Lies. It's called Time Out of Mind. And I had written the picture at that time as well. And I don't know why it didn't end up on Reach. I think we just didn't want to go that route with Reach. Even I think we had Scream, which was a ballad. We had Letting Go. So I think we were kind of wearing out our ballad.
You'd reached the quota, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it just kind of got shelved. And so there I am preparing for this album. As I always do, I'll go through, I've got boxes of cassettes, I'll go through old cassettes and listen to see if there's anything there that makes sense. Strike it off if it doesn't. And that song came up and it was pretty much done. As is, very much cruder form, but all of it had been written. And I was like, okay, I'm sending this out to the guys. And it was like, 100% from everybody. Closer to the Sun was only the music. I'd never written anything for it. And for whatever reason, I put it on and it was just, okay, I know exactly what needs to happen now, 15 years later.
Yeah.
It was just, it's
Well,
time.
and I mean, it's just classic Tyketto sound to me on that song. So
Thank you.
just
Yeah,
waiting.
it's really, it's turned out to be a big favorite and it's going to be a real challenger for live.
Excellent. I'll be looking forward to seeing if you pull it off. I'm sure you will. Now, from those old songs to a much newer one, and another a collab is "We Rise" is one I have to mention because
Mhm.
that one I believe stemmed from Harry initially. Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Harry had written the chorus and the guitar parts. And so we kind of, he was like, yeah, I always thought this sounded like Tyketto. And he played it to me. I was like, yeah, yeah, it's pretty quick. So that was one where I said, okay, leave it with me. Let me do my thing vocally for the verses and we'll put it all together and see how it goes. And, it came together pretty quickly.
Nice. I did read somewhere that you thought that his initial demo was maybe 280s, and I have to ask:
Initially,
is there really such a thing as that?
for me, there is, yeah. I mean,
Fair enough.
I don't, I don't like categorization too deeply. But if something sounds on the dated side of something, then I want to try and that was kind of the discussion. And so what I said was, I'll tell you what we'll do. I said, let me put an acoustic intro on it and see how that goes. And if that turns it a little more into a Tyketto song, which I think it did.
Yeah, and I love that because I mean, what you were saying about U2 and songs that just do the same thing throughout. I love that we have a song here that you start off one way and you have no idea where it's going to go. Your first minute is really great, and then the drop happens and it's full power, big anthemic chorus, and unstoppable. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, if when I look back, I was like, we did that with Seasons, that had that kind of Americana beginning to it, and then the band just kicks in big, So in fact, Sail Away does that too, really, if you think about it. So
yeah, true.
it's a tactic we've used, perhaps overused. We'll see.
Well, no, I think if you were doing every other song, then maybe it would get a bit tired. But I think it spices things up nicely, especially again talking about sequencing and how it just fits within the album as a whole as well. And obviously, you pulled that out as I think the second single release. I
Yeah.
didn't. I'll be honest, Danny. I didn't listen to any of these songs that came out as singles because um, I always figure I don't like to have a song that feels like the hits when I get the album, and if I know I'm going to buy the album anyway, I'll just wait. Um, but how do you choose what songs to put out and give people a flavor if they're maybe on the fence about new Taiketo?
Well, there's certain methodologies, I suppose. I mean, it was a discussion between everybody, band members, management, record company. Everybody kind of put their 2 cents in, and I just went with the ones that kind of got the most votes. But in the end, it comes down to me. So I felt like the first single, "Higher Than High," I was just thinking, it's been 10 years, so let's make sure everybody knows that we're still a rock band, and just bang, hit them with that. and I've also been always been a fan of that. I think your first song on your album is kind of your mission statement, Forever Young, Strength in Numbers. These were songs that said, okay, are you listening? So I wanted to make sure we did the same thing. So Higher
Nice.
Than High was the first single. We Rise to me was like, all right, if you weren't sure that this is going to be a Tyketto album, this ought to convince you.
And I think I did see that. I think there was a little bit of a pushback against Higher Than High when it came out, but then everyone was like, we realized, okay, right, I'm in. Um, and I think people then went back and thought, oh, actually, I do like Higher Than High after all. I was, sometimes people's first impression
It's really,
isn't the right one.
I've learned a valuable lesson that if you wish to live a happy life, don't read the comments. Um,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, I did, and it's absolutely amazing to me what people get hung up on. That when you said there was a little negativity, and it was all around. There's no guitar solo. What the hell? And you're like, really? That's what's bothering you today?
What can you do? Well, it's got a great solo on it. It's just not a guitar
Exactly.
solo.
And of course that's the single version. The album version has a guitar solo on it. It's just be patient. All will be revealed.
Yeah, you don't want to give everybody everything at once, do you? So,
No.
but
I'd rather hear some complaining, because
excellent.
you just, if everything's positive, then you figure something must be up. Like there's got to be some fluff going on here. So once in a while, when somebody comes across and just says, "Man, I don't like this," I'm like, "Okay, we're back to normal. That's fine."
So when it comes to the live shows that are coming up, and of course, Tyketto doesn't have a massive back catalogue of albums to pull from, but at the same time, it must still be pretty difficult working out what to keep in and what to leave out on any given night. So I'm not really asking for set list spoilers because I'll just find out when it comes. But what is your process of working out the set list for a tour? And do you like to mix things up every night, or is it one list for the entire run of dates?
Well, this time what we're planning on doing is we're going to get 6 new songs ship shape for live, and we're going to play 4 a night, and we'll rotate and see how things go. But yes, I fully expect to have people complaining all the way through the tour that we're running out of room, and
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. I mean, again, with no offense meant to all of those in your profession, but when people write things like, there was a live review of us last year that was absolutely glowing, like, top notch, unbelievable delivery, vocals are spot on, players are great, and all that. But I'm taking points off because they didn't play my favorite song. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Come on. You
yeah.
had to say something, right? So that's what you came up with.
I mean, that is the thing. Whether it's Tyketto or any gig, you walk out and you're always hearing people say, "Oh, they didn't play blah." It's like, well, of course they didn't play everything, but how about what they did play?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, it'd be one thing if we didn't play any of your famous songs. I mean, but I mean, it's just odd, and you walk in these days knowing that, there's loads of people going to be wagging their heads, going, oh, they didn't play this one. Oh, it's like, we're not going to play for 3 hours. It's very, very hard to do that. And people get
Yeah.
bored.
Well, I think you got the right attitude just to come out. People, you know what people are like, and you know that deep down they actually love it. It's just we have a way of being unnecessarily negative these days. I think it's the first thing that comes
There's
out
a
of
lot of
people's
that.
mouths.
Yeah, we're
And
being inspired all around us to be negative. And that
yeah,
was a real writing point for this record is we wanted this record to feel uplifting, something you could put on and enjoy and take your mind away from all the stuff that's flying around our heads right now.
yeah. Well, it's definitely a great antidote to all of that, and it's a great way to just step back from all the problems of the world and live a happier 48 minutes for a while.
Good.
So thanks for
Job done
thanks for doing that for us.
then.
And I mean, just circling kind of around the whole Tyketto story is that you can really that unique in terms of a band that was maybe just a little bit too late to get the big push and the big breakthrough that I think most Tyketto fans will say was well deserved, but just never came. But I think on the other side of the coin, it's pretty rare that you're in, for a band like that to be in the position you are now. You've still
Yeah.
got fans, and you can still write and tour. And what do you put
But
that down
more
to?
than
Is it
that,
just sheer determination?
yeah, stubbornness, absolutely. And more than that, I mean, we're growing again. I mean, we're being asked, excuse me, we're being asked to headline mid-level size festivals. We're being asked to back to countries that we either haven't played in decades or have never played before. The numbers are up. We've already mentioned, the sales figures and things like that. So something's going on, and I think part of it is that there is a surprisingly newer and younger generation, and would probably be like the kids of our fans are now coming to shows like mine, like others, and going, oh, good live band. I get it. I get why this matters as opposed to sitting at home and watching it on YouTube all day long.
Yeah. And speaking of younger fans coming to the shows, I mean, one of them's in the band now, Harry.
Yeah.
Um, how does he fit in and keep the rest of you, shall we say, veterans honest?
I don't know if he keeps us honest. He does keep us on our toes. We end up having to explain a lot of things to him that we've known for many, many years. But Harry is such just God. To describe him, he's such an open and kind soul that you would want to spend all day around. Like you'd never get tired of being around Harry. You may have to help him remember half of the stuff that he should have packed into his bag that he leaves flying all over the place, but his attitude towards guitar is so refreshing, and he gets that the guitar solo is not always the most important part of the song. That it's about the song. Yeah, it's about the song. There are times where I pushed him. I was like, Harry, faster. He's like, really? Because he can do it all. He really can. He can play this way, he can play that way. It doesn't matter. And he's one of those rare guitar players that can pick up an acoustic guitar and play that correctly. Play a bit of jazz and understand how that works rather than a metal guy trying to make it fit. And yeah, he admitted to me after being in the band for about 6 months that his parents bought him Don't Come Easy when he was 6 years old. So he's very enthusiastic about being here, and we're very, very lucky to have him.
Well, it's a great fit, I think. So
Yeah.
it's just a nice happenstance for everybody concerned. That's and I'm very much looking forward to catching you all live in London next week. And I won't complain if you don't play my favourite song. I won't tell you what it is, so you don't get pressured into doing anything you don't want to.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
But I mean, I just got to say that it's a proper UK tour as well, 10 dates, whereas most people do a UK tour, and that just means London and one other place. So you've always seemed to have had a connection with the UK, and this maybe, do you think that stems as far back as your Wasted days, or what do you put that down to?
For Tyketto, it's 1991 opening up for White Lion. We made a statement on that tour, and what I always cite the UK and European audiences have over the American audiences is a much longer memory. And you're not as afraid. If you see a guy in a jacket with patches all on at a concert in the UK, he'll have Cro-Mags and Slayer, Journey. It doesn't matter. It's like these are the bands I like, and it's okay if I like different kinds of bands. And that's much more. It's less click oriented as things are in the States. So we made a statement in '91, and people have they've always known that it's a band that works really hard on stage, and we don't phone it in.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, I mean, it's only been 3 years. It feels like I've missed you a load of times since that last tour. So I'm pleased to be making it to this one. It was a close call, but I'm coming. So, Danny, we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, for all those out there, Closer to the Sun is out now. So if you haven't already, give it a listen and indeed a buy. And check out Tyketto.com for not just the UK tour dates, but for their future plans throughout the year, which are many. And I would just say, I've got to do the mandatory YouTube bits of saying, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel and all that good stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. And another big thanks to Danny for being here with me. And I'll just say it's bye for now, but I hope not for long.
No, definitely not for long. Not for another 10. No, it won't be 10 years. I promise you that.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.